Welcome to the Mortgage No Podcast. My name is Kimberly Hawes. Today we're sitting down with Garrett Locklear. He is the founder and CEO of CANDID. How are you doing today, Garrett?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. So, first of all, for our readers and our viewers who haven't had the opportunity to meet you yet, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm here based here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I started out in the mortgage space like most people did as a complete accident and as a loan originator. And that was about 8 to 9 years ago. And as a loan originator, I hopped around different retail spots, two or three of them, and grew my origination business from 8 million a year to about 250 million a year in the course of about 6 or 7 years. And along that journey, we started building out, I say we, which is me and a small team, we started building out a technology platform to help us scale. Because what we found is, and what I found was, if you're doing 6 million a year, your problems are a little different than if you're doing 50 million a year. And those problems are a little different if you're doing 100 million a year. So along the journey, we started building out our own technology platform. And what happened was, because of our volume and trajectory, people kept coming up to us and started asking, "Hey, like, what are you doing? Like, what's your secret?" And outside of the technology platform that we built, a lot of hard work, a lot of a lot of vision and sticking to that vision. But the technology platform is certainly part of it. Today, it's known as Candid, but back then it was just a platform we built for ourselves. But that's a little bit of my background as far as where I come from, kind of what angle I approach in the mortgage space.
Right. And so, did you have any kind of technology background? You mentioned that you came from a different, I guess, idea or path of where you would be in life, like so many others who end up in
Yeah.
mortgage and lending.
Yeah. I'm in Nashville. Like I said, I came to Nashville because I'm a musician. So that just makes it even more wild. No technology background. When I think about it, my first experience with technology was on my dad's laptop computer on something called MS-DOS. And that is basically like the backbone for Windows. So that's super old. And we got to play games on it, which are black and white games, which is even older than you think. But no background in technology, but I've always been highly intrigued at the intersection of how technology can make our lives better. And so I take that intrigue and I applied it to my life as a loan originator. And the rest I learned on Google and now ChatGPT.
Wild. It's wild to think about, no, the transformation
Yeah.
of the technology and how you've been able to take it and grow and now build your business at Candid. And one of the things we're planning to talk about today, but we might as well jump right in, was AI. I mean, that's the next level of technology that everybody's been talking about for a number of
Yeah.
years now. And it's my understanding that lenders are interested in adopting things that have AI powered features because it really does help them scale, kind of how you scaled your original business with your platform before it was Candid.
Yeah, that's true. Fascinating frontier, and a lot of applications inside the financial services space and outside of it. But AI is probably like the buzzword for 2025 and 2026, and going forward. But it's one thing you noted, and it's kind of an important note, is I scaled my personal production from 6 million a year to 250 million a year before anyone, including myself, knew what ChatGPT was, meaning before AI. And I think that's important to note because AI is very exciting. But if you don't have the backbone in place to support AI, then AI sort of falls flat and eventually fails. And I think it's a really, a lot of mortgage organizations, especially that we speak with at Candid, are realizing this, that if the foundation isn't solid, putting AI on top of an old, antiquated platform just produces very poor results in the end. And when I mean a backbone, if a mortgage organization, this is very common, but from a sales and marketing perspective, if the mortgage organization has or allows 15 or 20 different platforms for mortgage marketing and sales, and they want to layer AI on top of that to enjoy all the benefits and the exciting results that AI can produce, it's virtually impossible. With AI is only as good as the data that's behind it. And so if you expose AI to say 1/15th of your data, or even 2/15ths, or even 3/15ths, then that's the result you're going to get. And so it's super important when I say having a backbone in place for AI to experience all the benefits that it offers. It's super important to consolidate all of that data down to as few what we call data lakes as possible for marketing and sales in mortgage space. That means not going out and buying the next shiny toy to sort of to integrate into your tech stack as best as you can. But that means rethinking what does it mean to have a tech stack, and that's one of the angles that we come at with Candid. We describe Candid as an operating system. It's not something you plug into your tech stack. The vision of Candid is to enable mortgage organizations to consolidate all their data into as few places as possible and be able to sunset all of these older, antiquated technology stack components and replace them with native experiences that exist inside of Candid.
All right. So maybe you can walk us through that a little bit more in depthly, Garrett, because it sounds like based upon what you're saying, and obviously correct me if I'm wrong, um, but it sounds like a lot of these companies are using multiple tech stacks and adding AI to multiple tech stacks won't produce the same results as having one central system that AI can harvest all of the data that it needs from to really perform at its optimum capacity. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, close. And companies have one tech stack, but as part of that tech stack, they have 30 to 40 different components. But if you just look at the marketing and sales components, because that's what Candid is focused on, mortgage marketing and sales. If you just look at the marketing and sales components, an average mortgage organization within that tech stack, they'll have anywhere from 9 to 13 different tech stack components that are
Okay.
dedicated for marketing and sales. Think like a point of sale, think about a CRM, maybe a mortgage presentation tool, client retention, home value reports, things like that. That's sort of all these components that start making up one tech stack. And what we're saying is, hey, a tech stack that served us well for the last 20, 30, maybe 40 years. But looking ahead, you can't layer AI on top of all of these components on top of a tech stack. It's impossible, literally. And so what you have to do is to rethink, is it a tech stack or do I need an operating system versus a tech stack? An operating system, think of like your iPhone. It's a really good example. An iPhone has a lot of different apps on it, but they all exist on one operating system. And so you never really think about it, but when someone calls you on the phone, that's an app on your phone. When someone messages you, that's another app. When you want to get on a social platform, that's another app within your phone. But those apps work so well together because they're on one operating system. They're all native to the operating system. But what's happened in the mortgage industry over the last 30 years is we brought in dozens of different vendors, called it a tech stack, called it an integration, but none of them operate nearly as well as the apps on your iPhone operate with each other. And so when you think about it from the perspective of an operating system, what Candid offers is everything I just mentioned without the need for all these vendors or integrations. Point of sale, CRM, client retention tools, mortgage presentation tools, online reputation management, over 24 now, different native experiences, but all on one operating system. And now that you have all of that sales data under one roof, now you can layer on AI and whether you need information from how many times a client's viewed their home value report, or maybe where that client is at on their mortgage application, or maybe what the client's doing in their client portal. It's all under one place. So you can say, hey, AI, go find the information. It's all under one place. And now do what I need you to do.
All right. So how are the lenders that you're working with turning around and using this information once they're getting it out of the AI?
Um, as far as how lenders are using Candid, what I'm talking about is pretty big vision shift, right? From tech stack to
Okay.
operating system. So the first step is looking at one component at a time. It would just be a nightmare to try and replace all of these components overnight. So we partner with a customer like a lower.com or like a kind lending on the West Coast. And typically we look at kind of like CRM type functionality at first. Let's just look at the CRM. All right, now we've got them in place. Now let's turn a couple of AI components on. And now let's look to the point of sale. All right, now we've consolidated the point of sale into the platform. Now let's look at a mortgage presentation tool. Let's get that consolidated. So it's really just a roadmap over time of we do one, I would recommend one component at a time. CRM is a great place to start. And then look at consolidating all of these. Once you have just one or two of them on board and you've consolidated them, that's when you can get some really exciting opportunities with AI. Think of AI in sales and marketing. So one example that we're using AI for, and just a really exciting result so far, newsletters. The mortgage industry loves newsletters. But one thing I've always not liked about newsletters is how generic they are, right? The best we've gotten is like national average rates, days on market, insert merge field for realtor's name, and we call that a newsletter. And I think at this point, we might have already crossed the line, but that's essentially noise at this point because consumers, including realtors, they just expect more. They expect better. They expect one to one. They don't expect to be genericized into a national database or national news. They want when they if they're going to invest their time reading your newsletter, it's got to be for them. So what an amazing opportunity with AI. I think it was last month we released AI newsletters, and the idea of an AI newsletter is no two newsletters are the same ever. The audience reading it, that newsletter is for them. So if you send off a million newsletters, then each one of them would be different. You can never mirror the same newsletter. So a realtor in East Nashville who loves renovating historic homes, imagine how wildly different their newsletter will be than a realtor in Miami who sells high-end condos. Each of those newsletters is going to talk about their days on market, is going to talk about their business. And we're really moving beyond a newsletter to really like a coach. Because within the newsletter, you can insert in the voice of your favorite real estate coach 3 business tips based on all of this data that we have about the realtor. And the data is both inside of Candid and researched outside of Candid in order to compose this newsletter for the realtor. And so now you can take a newsletter for my first example, realtor who loves to renovate historic homes in East Nashville, from the lender, talking about their days on market, talking about their 3 latest listings, talking about their average purchase price for their business. And then here, based on their social actions, here are 3 business tips to help guide this one particular realtor's business forward, coming from the lender, and of course mentioning why that lender is perfectly positioned to help this realtor's unique business.
Right. And so these are one-to-one kind of white glove, I guess it
Yeah,
sounds like interactions. So as opposed to getting, like you said, maybe a generic newsletter that's created for thousands of people
right,
throughout the country, it's geared towards, as you said, that one realtor, their market, and the specific kind of business that they like
right.
to do. Now,
Exactly.
my question for you, Garrett, is, and I'm sorry to interrupt, of course, but my question for you is how is the AI collecting this information about these realtors for these lenders to apply? Is this information the lenders already have on hand in their Rolodexes or probably more modern ways of keeping notes about people?
Yeah, that's a great question. The information has to come from multiple sources. It's real time. If you talk about days on market, but it's 6 months old, then that newsletter isn't as valuable as days on market today. Or if you talk about, the realtors or the readers' last 3 listings, but they're 9 months old, then that newsletter loses its shine, loses its value very quickly. So some of the data comes from Candid inside the platform. Some of the data, let's say there's social activity, it's a real-time social activity search. Some of the data, like days on market, and the last three listings or last three transactions they did, that's live MLS type data. So you have to everything down to like the weather for that week. You've got to pull all this information, a lot of it in real time, and then take all of it and feed it to what we would call like a copywriter, but it's really AI, and have it write a newsletter using this data in real time and then present it to the realtor to help guide their business and become that valuable referral partner.
Right. So I'm just trying to get an idea or an example with this particular, one topic newsletter, because there's
Mhm.
so many different things, and hopefully we'll talk again about more applications. But
Oh yeah.
for today, let's just stick on this one topic, the newsletter, so people can really get an idea of how this might flush out and how it can benefit their business. So if you're a lender, your newsletter, as opposed to, like I said, being something broad for a
Yeah.
national or even a statewide platform or a local area, can now be, turned into, hi, John, you know, I see the weather this week is going to be extra cold, or now it's spring and everybody's going to be jumping for you know, open houses.
Hmm.
And then you can get into like, these were your most recent sales. This is the
Right.
current day on market. This is the current home value in your market. I'm perfectly positioned to help you right now. And I have the opportunity and the time to do so. Let's connect and then kind of end it. Is that where you're
A little
going
bit.
with these?
Yeah, a
Okay.
little bit. So when you think about like a newsletter, that's a good place, maybe in the first like couple of sentences to start. But then where you get really valuable with our AI newsletters is, what does that mean for the real estate agent? What is the average days on market plus their three last listings, how long they took to sold, whether they're still on the market or not? What does all of that mean for the real estate agent? Translate it for them and go a couple of levels deeper than that. And so I was reading one of the newsletters the other day, and the newsletter said in the business tips section, "Hey, your average days on market right now for a purchase price that's below $325,000 is a lot lower than your days on market for a higher purchase price in the zip code that you operate in. What that means is for your next listing, make sure that the listing knows as you're advising them that, hey, we can price your home on the higher end of the spectrum, but it's going to sit longer. If you want your home to move faster, here's the price point that you should focus on. So we're taking the days on market, average purchase price, et cetera. But now it's like it's taking the data and it's saying, hey, let's think about this deeper. And here's a script you can use for your next listing appointment based on this data. So it's really going a couple of levels deeper than even just regurgitating data that they may already know, like days on market. What does this
Right.
mean for your next listing appointment? What does this mean for your next buyer's appointment? Here is some scripting that you can use. And then you mentioned like, where's the data coming from? Some of that is like days on market. That's available to everybody. But so a lot of the data is proprietary as well to Candid. If you look inside of Candid, part of the ecosystem is a realtor portal. And through the realtor portal, they can refer clients, they have the pipeline view, they can update and download pre-approval letters, schedule a time you can talk with a listing agent for an offer, that kind of thing. But because we have that data, what's the last client they referred? What does that purchase price look like? When's the last closing that they have? Because we have that data and other data like personality type, we enrich our referral partners' records with things like personality type. If you write a newsletter to me, I'm pretty high on the D spectrum if you're looking at the DISC personality type. If you write a newsletter to me, I want the bullet points. If it takes more than 30 seconds to read, you've lost me. But if you try and write that newsletter to an I or maybe an S type personality type, they want a lot more in depth. They want to know
Mhm.
why, they want to feel the reasons why. That's a lot longer newsletter. You have to consider all of these things when you're writing newsletters. And a lot of that data, the proprietary data, exists inside of Candid and can only exist inside of Candid because it's that operating system that has access to the realtor portal and the leads and the point of sale and all the other components that make up Candid.
Hmm. That's fascinating. It's
Yeah.
fascinating. I don't, not just for the mortgage industry, but for me myself as a journalist, if we were
Yeah.
able to craft our newsletter specifically to readers to get the information that they're really looking for into their hands,
Yeah.
um, imagine how powerful that
Yeah.
would be. Or for a doctor, that's doing
For anyone,
newsletters.
this has
Yeah,
applications
exactly. A
far beyond
lawyer in the
mortgage.
area. Yeah, this
Homeowners.
beyond the, very cookie
Yeah.
cutter thing. And, I guess I
We
have
call it
to.
we call it neighborhood notes, but we have a proprietary AI model that writes a newsletter for your past clients. But again, like past clients don't want to know, what their average days on market is, and they're like they don't care. But we have all this data from past clients in the mortgage industry as a whole. You can just start with their property address. It's not rocket science. But within Candid, we also know with that client, hey, when's the last time they looked at their home value report? With Candid, we also know like, hey, how much would they say that they would like to sell their home for when they're ready? We have all this proprietary data that we're constantly gathering for past clients. We gather that data through our automated annual mortgage review. That's part of the client retention cloud. But we have all this data and we can take it, AI can synthesize it very quickly and then write this incredible newsletter. Hey, here's the three things that are happening this week within 5 miles of you that you might. Here's a new restaurant that's opening up. Here's what's happening at the farmers market down the road. We can go and take the data, enrich it with more data outside of it, and then write this incredible. I'm not even sure if you can call it a newsletter anymore. This incredible newsletter for past clients that has sky high open rate and provides a ton of value for our customers.
Very, very interesting. I look
Yeah.
forward to hearing so much more about this and much, much more from you as we continue to have these conversations. As you're looking forward, as you know, Q1 is wrapping up, and by the time this is published, will probably be wrapped up. As you're looking forward in 2026, what are some of the things that excite you about this year?
A lot of the opportunities around AI are very, very exciting. I think the challenge there is knowing where to apply AI and where not to. Both of those are I would say equally important. We spent our entire time talking about really marketing, mortgage marketing and sales. And just the applications of AI in that category are tremendous. But we're moving ahead with looking for ways that we can provide incredible value inside and outside of AI for our customers. We're about to release AI written blogs. So think of the same concept, but with blogs. We're finding that all of these large language models, the idea is like, hey, if I ask a large language model who's the best lender in my area, a lot of them are looking to blogs. And so we want to make sure we're providing very localized automated blogs once a week, maybe once a month. So these large language models can pick up on it and find our customers. So when that question is asked, their name is at the top of that list. And so moving in that direction and that exists in the same content cloud as AI newsletters. But I see a day, and it's not very far off, where the marketing, we'll call it marketing libraries, we call it content cloud. But I see a day where the marketing departments at mortgage companies are no longer restricted by capacity, meaning loan officers, they want custom content nearly constantly. And there's just not enough resources to address every custom content request from a loan officer. I see a day pretty soon in the future. We knocked out AI newsletters. We're about to release AI blogs, but think ahead to custom social content, custom print content, being able to generate that on demand for loan officers, run it through an AI compliance officer, getting it approved so that it's no longer days or weeks of waiting for loan officers to fulfill a loan officer's custom content requests. It's seconds. I think that's one direction that we're going with AI to be able to tackle that it's been like a 40-year problem in the mortgage industry, not being able to fulfill all these custom content requests.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see how it can become overly burdensome for those departments, especially since so much compliance is
Yeah.
required in
Yeah.
this particular field to make sure that everything is done properly. Well, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything that we haven't had the chance to cover today that you want to make sure we mention before we wrap up?
No, if you want more information about Candid, you can go and check us out at candid.inc. Or you can shoot me an email, Garrett at candid.inc. Happy to field any and all questions. I feel like we spent all of our time today on our content cloud, and we'll have to do more on the other angles of a Candid as well.
Absolutely. I look forward to having you back, and I hope all of you who have been listening in or viewing today um, come back as well to learn much more about this interesting subject. Things are changing very rapidly in our field, and I appreciate your viewership. Once again, my name is Kimberly Hawes. Have a great day.